we can give, but we don't have to overextend ourselves. So we definitely want to get into it, guys. It is now time for the Love Lab. And I am so excited to be here with my special guest, Angel, Texas therapist. As you can see, if you have not done so, make sure that you have followed her. Go and click on her bio, check on out what she has going on. Like, she is definitely a vibe. She is a wealth of information. She has a heart of compassion. You will not be disappointed about connecting with her. So that's very, very important. And I'm so grateful that you come, because I love to connect with other professionals, because that's the thing that can really speak our language, and because it's so needed in this healing space. And so many people need to be in a place to where they're whole. And so thank you for being a part of this. What I do want you to do, I just want you to take a moment and share with the people, again, presenting yourself, your name. If you live stream, what day do you live stream? And then also tell the things that you're doing online on TikTok and offline. And then don't forget to mention your book. Yes. Those two things. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doc, for having me here. I'm so happy and honored to be asked to be here. Like you said, I am a Texas licensed therapist. So I have a virtual practice that operates in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I see clients all over the state of Texas for therapy. I also do coaching as well. So if you don't live in Texas and you still want services, I also do coaching. My specialty is relationships. So I tell people I see from the beginning to the end. So
to the end.
Individuals and couples who are dealing with any kind of relationship distress. So whether it's looking to build intimacy or just good communication skills, good relational skills, that's my wheelhouse. And so I just recently, back in December, released a book about divorce. Sharing some personal experience and just clinical experience in helping people navigate through divorce. And one of the things that a lot of people have been sharing their feedback, where was this when I first went through my divorce several years ago? But it's just giving some practical tools and helping people that are navigating through the struggles and all the emotions, because it's such a difficult and different type of grief. When you go through divorce, there's so many different parts and things that come up when you go through a divorce grief.
I agree.
So it's just a guided, there's a journaling portion in there as well for you to share your thoughts as you're going through each chapter. So that's something that you can purchase on my website. The link is in my bio as well. I do go live on Sunday evenings at 6 Central. Just call it group therapy. We're just healing together, talking about processing through divorce and some of the things that come up. So yeah.
That's awesome. And that's one of the biggest things, Angel, for me. Like, when I came to social media, I wanted to really, truly be a servant. And I know you have a servant heart. So I'm one of those people that observe people. I watch people and I see how they move. Yeah. And I pray and I'm like, God, show me, like, who should I connect with? And so as I was watching your content and just kind of like how you express yourself, that's one of the things. I know that you have a servant heart. I see your transparency, and I know that you really, truly want to help people. And you do it in a space to where you don't overextend yourself, but you do it to where you know that, hey, I'm going to give you enough. But again, this is my livelihood. So if you really, truly want to go through the process, I am also available to go to the extended version and be assistance to you. And that's been a big thing for me, especially when we do have, our credentials. People tend to like, oh, wow, they're on live and let me go get this free help. And it's like, no, I'm going to give you what I'm willing to give. I'm going to give you what I'm willing to give. Yeah. And, and I think that that's very important. But the fact that we do have qualified professionals that do come to these platforms that give the insight, what they're willing to give, I think it is a definitely starting point, because there are definitely some people that are mishandling information. And so I applaud everyone that I come across that is just the real deal. So shout out to you, ma'am.
Yes. And that's what caught my attention about you, actually. Just as I'm not on TikTok a lot, but when I come across people that are genuine and that are knowledgeable and that truly you can tell have a heart for what they do. I'm like, okay, let me check them out. Let me follow them. And that's what keeps coming across my feed. So I appreciate that.
Nice. I appreciate you as well. Listen, guys, tonight we are in the Love Lab and we are going to be talking about divorce, healed and rediscovered, because that is a thing. And this is not just for the young folks, because we know us older folks and us seasoned folks, we got a little seasoning on us. Over 40, 40 and this is just a different, playing field for us. So I think to have the conversation is so very important. So tonight we're going to break this out in 4 segments, guys. We're going to be talking about the aftershock, facing the pain. And I think this is so important. I know myself, I'm very transparent. I've gone through a divorce, right? But I've also gone through the grief of losing love after divorce. It's just a domino effect,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It is definitely something. And then we're going to dive off into the healing process where we need to get in that place of finding wholeness, and then the rediscovery, which is so very necessary about the new chapter, and just kind of like reveal ourselves and get comfortable. So I'm so glad that we can make this connection. Definitely feel comfortable. We're just going to kick it up and have a good time tonight. This is no structure, not formal. We're just gonna have a good time tonight. But I thank you so much for being here. With our first topic, when I'm talking about this aftershock, facing the pain, and one of the things that I try to tell people that I counsel is feeling. You need to feel, right? And because a lot of people go numb. I've been there, right? Where I've gone through certain things. Anytime there's a loss in your life, you go through that point to where you may shut down and you're not feeling, and there's a numbness. So facing the pain is so very important. So we want to talk about why, divorce hits different at 40 plus. We want to talk about normalizing our emotions and feeling overwhelmed, and the sadness, the anger, the relief that comes with it, the confusion. Angel, I have heard so many people, men and women alike, that, I was in a live stream the other day, and one of the ladies said, I think it was a divorce party, and I was like, why are we wait I'm not trying to celebrate that. And I can't rock with it, but some people's mindset and how they process things, like they want to celebrate by having a divorce party, and I just couldn't connect with that. But we do want to talk about that. We want to talk about the spirituality aspects, the emotions that tied to it, and then just really kind of like letting go of shame, because shame plays a big part in divorce. And I know we'll share tonight, and then even just with society judging us, when we go through these things, and I think that people face that as well. So I would ask you the question, Angel, what would you say that surprised you most about your emotional response? Like when your divorce happened, what was the thing that just stood out to you the most?
I think for me, because my marriage, I think I had already kind of started processing before it was final. So I think kind of towards the end, the last couple of years, I knew this was ending. And so I had already kind of started shutting down. So by the time it was ended and it was over and we were like moving apart, I think I was like, okay, I'm okay. And so I think what surprised me was more of the emotional upheaval that I felt
Yes.
after, because I felt like I had already kind of started grieving. And the discomfort I felt, I think, too, was surprising, because anytime I ran into somebody that knew us, having to like, oh, how's, you doing? And it's like the awkwardness of, what do you say?
At this point, like
people who didn't know, like, what do you
Yes.
say?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
just that awkwardness of, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get into it and then have to deal with other people's emotions when you're already dealing with your own. So that was, and again, like you said, the shame and embarrassment, because, coming from the church, we were leaders in the church. We were, the it couple, like everybody was looking at us. So, how are y'all divorced? So it was that shame too, and embarrassment of, why we couldn't make it work. So I think that was something that I didn't expect.
Wow.
Feeling that way.
Yeah.
After the fact.
I think that's really, really good, because one of the things for me personally, I remember walking into this restaurant, And I was not really like in tune and focused. And it just so happened one of our former church members was there, very close to us. This is a church we had been almost 20 years. And so, and she literally comes, she's like, you know, Dr. Hollie, you know, we're talking and we're laughing. And then the next thing you know, she hits me with one. Well, I felt like that y'all should have at least come before us and, you know, said that y'all were divorcing. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to her explain because, you know, the way we saw you and I said, well, let me help you with something because going through that, I'm trying to process what the heck is happening over here. I'm not thinking about nobody. Right. He wasn't thinking about nobody. And I said, so it is very unfair for people to look at your life and be like, you owe me something. Right. We're trying to process the losses that is happening in our life. Mind you, we have adult kids and we've known each other at this present time for 30 years. So we're very invested. Mm-hmm. So, but you have people who are looking in your life that are so emotionally tied to you, and you don't even realize the impact until something like this, you know, very devastating happens. So I agree with you. It can be something. I don't know what your experience has been, but this has been a big thing for me because I want to talk about how you've handled per se well-meaning, but hurtful comments from others. One of the things that hurts me, and I'm just being transparent, is that I'm an advocate for healthy relationships. I love. I want to see people get married. But guess what? When I got a divorce, they was like, well, you ain't qualified. Oh. Let's talk about that, Angel. They basically disqualify you. You know, even though you're in the profession too, and you've been counseling and, you know, all these things, you're now disqualified simply because the divorce happened. So how do you handle that?
Right. I don't know that I've ever encountered that to my face. That's not to say nobody said that behind my back. No one's been bold enough to say it to my face because I am a marriage counselor. Like I am a relationship counselor. So most of my clients are couples. And no one fights harder for couples than me. And, you know, it doesn't matter my history and past. That has nothing to do with, one, my clinical expertise and experience. And, like you said, my love for marriage. Like, you know, I'm not going to do the work for you and fight harder than you were willing to fight for your marriage, but I have a passion for healthy relationships. And a lot of that comes from knowing, one, my own past and history and mistakes. That drives me to fight hard, you know, and want to see healthy relationships. And something an old pastor, you know, once told me, he was like, you know, your greatest, you know, struggle is a lot of times your greatest area of ministry. And, you know, that's something that really resonated with me because, I've struggled relationally in the past. And so that fuels me because, you know, I don't want to see another couple struggle with what I struggled with. Absolutely. I don't want to see another couple have the same fate, you know, as I had. So, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to help every couple that comes, you know, to me work for their marriage and work for their relationship. Absolutely. So, you know, I think a lot of people view, you know, you're right. I think a lot of people who are in ignorance and uneducated sometimes can view that as, oh, either you've never been married, so how can you help me, you know, or you're divorced, how can you help us with our marriage? Not to say that I think having experience coupled with clinical expertise definitely is something to, you know, look at. That's why a lot of people who are addiction counselors, you know, are successful because if you've never had a drug addiction, you know what it's like.
It's like we're not talking the same language.
You know, so I think there is something to be said for that. However, you know, people who are clinically trained in strategies and helping people navigate through, you know, it's different.
It's very different. I think that's a big thing for me because a huge part of my life has been combining psychology with ministry, which is pastoral counseling. And so a huge part of what I have done has been in that vein coming at this stage and age of my life. Like I've evolved to this place and understood the need and how I could connect with the church. And I think that that was the things that I discovered as far as like the well-meaning but the hurtful comments is that you do have people who see you in a church. Now, for me, I am an ordained minister, so obviously I've done some weddings. I've done a lot of things even beyond the counseling. So now it's like I think that's why people may be a little bit bold because they was like, wait, stop the press, that kind of thing like that. But one of my discoveries has been is that I have connections with other my peers who are in this thing that maybe they haven't been married before. And they, like you said, when they are clinicians, they are, listen, that advice and the work that we go through to study. And if we're an advocate for healthy relationships, we obviously want to help you. And I think that this is where people can potentially miss the mark. So I love that you expressed that, like you said, like I am trained for this and I went into it because this is a desire of your heart as well. Like this is a part of who you are. And I think that that's important. Like when people are seeking out counselors, that they look at not just the surface, but they get to, the bottom part to really discover like who is that person and their design. And I think that's very important too. Yeah. So yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add or to say to that?
Yeah, but I definitely understand, people's perception of it, and so that is something, and you're going to always have those people. But it's just the same as I think a lot of just whether it's a male counselor or a female counselor,
Absolutely.
I always, I'm like, look, I'm not here to take sides.
Yes.
I don't have any
no bias.
Y'all's marriage.
No bias
with y'all. The success of y'all's relationship is dependent on you, not me. I'm here to help you both navigate and bridge this gap.
That's it.
And what's happening here. So I'm here for the both of you.
I love that. I think that's the greatest strength is that when we can have these conversations and for people to hear that there is not a bias. I am here to help. I'm not here to take sides. And I think that that's very important, especially when you're dealing with people that are coming to you saying, I'm about to check out. I want this divorce to, And so it's like, can we save this? Can we save this marriage? Can we get it from this? And I've even had those instances to where people have gone through the divorce and have reconciled. But like you said, it is definitely a process. But to be in that vulnerable place where people can come to you when they are experiencing divorce and the devastation that happens, because you just are not being impacted by it. Like the people that you love are impacted by it as well too, One of the things I wanted to pause and because we have a question in the comments, and so I'm going to just ask, it says, do you think counseling is needed in preparation of marriage, being single again? So again, here we are 40 plus, Angel. Do you think that people that have hit that stage of 40 plus, they're single again, do they need to go back through premarital counseling?
Well, number one, I think counseling is for everybody. So,
hello.
Regardless of where you been, what you're doing, and I think counseling is for everybody. I think it is very helpful to have someone outside of yourself, outside of your circle, to help you unpack things that are on your heart and mind. So that's just blanket for everybody, no matter where you are. But definitely, if you have been in a marriage before you get into another marriage, it is important to make sure you don't have any blind spots.
Yes.
It is so important because, and that you've clearly evaluated and understood what it is that, your part was in the breakdown of your marriage, because, it's never just one person. That's one of the things
accountability.
In my book is understanding your what happened, because we can always have a list of all the things we know we want this in a person, we need this in our partner, but there's always going to be something that is missing, from our childhood, our upbringing, that leaves a hole in us that we did not receive. And if we don't understand what that is and examine what that is what is drawing us to certain people. And that whole list of what we had that we didn't get, that we have on our list of what we want, that really goes out the window. And we're drawn
Yeah.
to that other thing that is really louder.
Yeah.
That's what I had to examine about myself,
Mm-hmm. That's
and
good.
that sometimes we don't really recognize that
Yeah.
it's still there. And that becomes
That's
louder,
good.
and we're drawn to that
Yeah.
a little bit more. So you really have to understand that what that is, because if not, you can be getting into a second marriage with a different face but the same traits as
Absolutely.
the first person.
Yeah. That's
So
good
it,
stuff.
it, it is important to make sure that you really examine your own heart, to make sure that you worked on the things that you feel like contributed to the breakdown of your relationship the
Yeah.
first time before going into something new.
I love that. I love that. Listen, guys, if you're just tuning in, I am here. I am your host, Dr. Holly, and I am here with my special guest, Angel, Texas therapist. She is a licensed professional counselor. If you have not done so, I cannot express to you enough to make sure that you click on her name and click on her bio and check her out. This is what I'm saying, God. Favor is so fair because God literally connects great people to get the exposure out. And this is why we have these type of opportunities. And so I know as much as I am being blessed tonight just by having this conversation, I know that whether you're in this live stream or outside of this live stream, that you are being impacted as well. So thank you for being a part of this conversation. I appreciate you guys. Angel, I literally want to dive into segment 2 of our conversation and talk about the aftershock of facing the pain. I literally, when going through divorce, it was I battled with it, and I did not go through the divorce until like 2 years after, like to finalize it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was having this hope of maybe he's going to reconcile, and we're going to do the right things, and we're going to go through counseling again, and all these things. And so I want to talk about just really being in this place of the healing process that definitely does need to happen, and finding yourself and finding wholeness and rebuilding from the inside out. For me personally, I understood it was about the self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in the journey, but then also counseling people in the journey, I'm like, gosh, people are so disconnected from understanding the need of self-discovery once something major like that happens. So I want to talk about the necessary need of going through therapy, and if they are believers, that prayer life, because I know that you and I are believers, and that's been essential to
Yes,
our walk. And
absolutely.
talking about those things. And so what would you say that in this process of just healing after everything is said and done, what does the healing look like for you right now in
Mm-hmm.
this season of your life?
Well, for me, I'm being raised in the church. My dad is a pastor, so I've been in the church my whole life. That is something that I never stopped. I never
Mm,
stopped being connected to
yeah,
a church family. I never
good
stopped
stuff.
serving. I never stopped that. That
Mm-hmm.
that is what has carried me through. That
Yeah,
has been an essential part of my healing process, is being connected to God,
yeah,
and being in community. And so that I know has been a major part of healing and
yeah.
peace and going through the process.
Mm,
And so that is something that for people who are believers, that you can't, I think the tendency is to isolate and to pull away because you don't want to, anyone to deal with the emotions you're going through, or you don't want people to see what you're going through. Or like you said, the shame
mm-hmm.
and embarrassment, especially if y'all were in the same church,
Exactly.
you
Especially
know,
then. All eyes on
you know,
you.
wonder where is, so so, it may need to,
Yeah,
okay, I need to find a different community if that person is still there or whatever.
yeah.
So we can stay in the same church with the ex,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a large enough congregation. You go to
Wow.
different services. But
Yeah,
you need to be in a community. You don't want to
yeah.
disconnect from
Mm-hmm.
community somewhere, because that
Mm-hmm.
is an anchor.
That's good.
You
That's
know,
good.
that is
Yeah.
very critical. You don't that is what the enemy wants, is to disconnect you from community. Because when you're
Yeah.
isolated, that is when all those negative thoughts will bombard you.
That's it.
You know, those
That's it.
feelings
That
of
isolation is something.
those
Mm-hmm.
that shame, that embarrassment, all the negative
Yeah. The
thoughts.
guilt.
You
Yeah.
know, you're not gonna ever find anybody else. You're gonna be alone forever. Look at what's happening to you, and all of those things are going to compound. So you have to stay
Mm-hmm.
connected to your source.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
That
So
is so
what
important.
would you say too in this process? Like you said, staying connected and doing the things that you suggested. What are some of the habits and practices that people can do, which you say, to help them to continue to move forward versus staying stuck in that
Yeah,
space, in the
and so
guilt, in the
yeah,
shame?
yeah. So that was one. I also was in therapy. And then I found too a group through a grief was a grief no divorce recovery. There's
Yes.
a divorcerecovery.org, and it was a support
Yeah.
group. And again, the whole shame of divorce, being in the church was just so loud for me,
Wow.
and
Wow.
going to this group really helped remove that because it was a community of other believers because it's a Christian based program.
I love
And
that. Yeah.
so it's, you can go on their website and there's groups they meet. Some are virtual, some are in person. I went to an in person group.
Nice.
And this was, all over, I think it's national. So you can meet,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. And it was a 11-week course and we met every
Nice.
week and it was other people and
I love
some with
that.
worse situations in mind, some, newly divorced, some still like separated in the process, in
Mm-hmm.
decision, whatever. And, we were just in a supportive community where you could see people, some divorced once, some divorced twice, and it just felt like, okay, I'm not alone here. There are other
Yeah.
people who are
That's the
going
key. You're
through
not
this too.
alone.
Yeah. And that
Mm-hmm.
really helped, like, just a weight lift from me that this is not a
Yeah.
shameful thing. This
Nice.
is something that you go through in life sometimes,
Yeah.
and that was also very helpful
I love that.
to
I
have that
love
group.
that.
Yeah.
So with that process, because again, therapy is so very important that we have that. And like I said, I know that prayer is an intricate part of your process, the reflection, because you talk about that as well. What would you say is when it comes to forgiveness? What
Hmm.
would you say is the important aspect of forgiveness for yourself and then also for your spouse?
Yeah. For me, I tend to be a forgiving person.
Okay.
Anyway, because with what I do, I just in how I need God to move in my life, I just don't have any
Mm-hmm.
room for angst,
Mm-hmm.
ill feelings towards
Yeah.
anybody. So I tend to be
Yeah.
a instant forgiver anyway. I
Yeah.
think for
Nice.
me, it was hard to forgive myself for being in certain situations. But for those people who do struggle with forgiveness, I think a lot of the times it's because, especially if you feel like wrong was done to you, whether it's, your spouse cheated,
Yes.
or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever was abusive to you or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's feeling as if they get to go on with life and live
Right.
life scot free while you're
Scot
suffering
free.
in pain.
Uh-huh.
And look at them. Their life is just, they're going on and living life and nothing has happened. And I'm over here struggling and suffering and having to rebuild my life and start over and with nothing.
Yeah.
And, they're just moving on. And that is the hard part that I think people have
Yeah.
that, they hold on to and they feel like,
I agree.
nothing is happening to them. Like, why is nothing
I
happening to them?
agree.
And the
Exactly.
forgiveness is holding them hostage when really it's not.
Yeah. It really
It's
is.
holding you hostage emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Because it is about you. It's a you
it's about,
thing.
yeah. So the forgiveness has to do with your own emotions and not letting that keep you in a cage,
Good
you
stuff.
know,
Very
with that
good.
person because
Mm-hmm.
unforgiveness is really holding you to that person. It's
Yeah.
holding you trapped continually to that person. And when you choose to let it go, and it's not an instant thing, just okay, I forgive you, and then
It's
I'm,
not instant.
it's okay. And, it's a process, but it starts with you choosing to walk into forgiveness
Yeah.
and letting God work in your heart to release that strength of emotion, so that when you think about what happened, you don't get the same intensity of emotion every time. So
You
it is
know,
a process.
some people have those identity crises. So like now that the marriage is at the stage it is, there's an identity crisis that happens with so many people, like to discover themselves. What kind of guidance could you give to people who have gone through a divorce about just reconnecting to their identity? Because that is a big thing.
Yeah, especially like you said, once you get 40 plus, if you've been married since you were in your 20s, you spent your
Mm-hmm.
whole adult life, especially you had kids, a family, so your
Yeah.
identity has been wife, mother,
Mm-hmm.
husband, father for all of your adult life. And so now I've had clients, who've been married 20, 30 years and, are now divorcing and having to figure out, I don't know who I am, what I like. I
At
haven't
all.
done anything for me. It's been about the kids. The kids are adults now or teenagers,
Yeah.
and they've got their own lives and, activities. And I've been all about them and, their family this whole time. So they're having to
Yeah.
rediscover who they are and what they like. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when I walked them through, okay, well, think about, before all of this, think back to when, it may take a minute, but let's go back to when you were, early 20s, before you got married, when you were in college, high school. What things were you involved in?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What things did you really enjoy? And it may, ask your parents if they're living, ask friends who knew you then, or your siblings, people who knew you
Mm-hmm.
then, what things were you into? That's a
Yeah.
starting place.
That's a good
Maybe you're not
place.
interested in those things anymore. So now you get to rediscover new things.
That's a good
And
point.
so,
Mm-hmm.
divorce is not the end. And I think, like you were
It's
talking about,
not.
people having these divorce
Yes.
parties now, that's a bit much. I think
It just seems
people
like
do
so
that.
extreme. Like,
Yeah,
put it in a coffin.
that's a bit much, like celebrating that, because it
Yeah.
is so devastating for some people. I think people
It
who,
is.
feel like they were trapped or whatever, they feel like that's,
Yeah. That's
their
it.
rite of passage,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a
Yeah.
bit much. But
Yeah.
it's not the end. It
Yeah.
really can be the start of a fresh beginning,
It
and it's
can.
not your life ending. Like, you now
Yeah.
have to figure out and create something new for yourself. No, this is not what you wanted. This is, nobody gets married and hopes for this end, but this is where you are. So
Mm-hmm.
in the grieving process, you get to the place of acceptance that this is where my life is now. So
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do now? I get to
Yeah.
create something new. And there's something very empowering about that I get to choose and decide what I want to do now and what
That's it. The
direction I want
choice.
to go now. Yeah. I get to
Yeah.
choose. Okay, what do I want to try? What's something that I wanted to try that I couldn't, because I was raising a family and had a spouse, and I didn't have the flexibility and the liberty to do it, but now I do. So what is it that I want to try? What can I try now that maybe I didn't? So it's really a
Mm-hmm.
time to start exploring. What have you driven by some place that you wanted to go stop in that you haven't? Go stop in there.
Go
What
do it.
class or,
Just go.
activity have you wanted to do? So it's
Yeah.
now a time to start exploring who
I
you
love
are
that.
now, what things you like about yourself now.
I discovered a whole bunch of stuff.
I
You know what? I literally, I was like, dang, like really, like literally, I found myself taking to, like, for example, Groupon, and
know.
I just figured, okay, well, let me go on Groupon. I'm gonna find a whole bunch of activities just to kind of do, and so literally, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do horseback riding, and I'm gonna go to this golfing thing, and then I'm gonna try this cooking class, and then I'm gonna try kayaking. And so what came out of that is that now, would everybody know, I love kayaking, right? That's not something I ever was exposed to. So it wasn't until literally I hit my 40s, and now I'm out here in the lake, doing kayaking and enjoying it, and I'm so at peace. Like, it is a part of the thing that I do for myself, that is self-care. But yeah, that discovery, I think for me too, just even with going through the dating phases and all that good stuff, was like, what are you going to tell the person that is before you? Like, what do you like? Where do you like to go?
Right.
Because I knew nothing. I
Yeah.
knew absolutely nothing. So I took 2 years before even jumping into anything, and to try to figure out, who am I?
You have to.
Who are you beyond being a mom, being, just so indebted into your career? Because of course I was career driven,
Yeah.
and and
That's
then of course being a wife.
Just jump into work.
Yes.
That's the easiest thing to do, because it's already
That
there.
is so easy. It's
But
there.
if you don't know who you are, and you try to start dating and connecting with people, who are they really meeting? And then you end up in unhealthy situations, because now you're molding yourself into who they want you to be, or you're easily manipulated into something else.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know who you are.
That's
I always say I've always been a free spirit at heart.
Yeah.
Like, that is the heart of me. People wouldn't get that impression of me, because they see me as a businesswoman.
Like,
they see me as, but
Same.
I am go with the flow, like, chill, go with the flow type of person. I can't operate like that because I'm a business owner, and so
I'm a business owner. I have to separate them. Yes,
I have to be, structured and organized to a degree. But personally, I am go with the flow. I'm down for whatever. Like, it doesn't matter to me, So that is something that I've rediscovered about myself. Like, I like a nice, chill, easy day. Like, that's something that I've been able to get back to. Like, I have a friend, she's like, hey, I'm coming to get you. We're going, so, okay. I know when I get in the car with her, no telling where we end up.
Yeah, just having a good old time, just free.
And I'm here for it. Like, we don't need any plans, no, nothing. And I love it. Like, that is who I am at the heart of me. So I love that. Yes, I can get back to that and not be stressed about certain things. So you have to rediscover who you are now, and who, it could be, like you said, getting back to the person you were, or rediscovering new things about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And that's so freeing and empowering.
One of the things that I will also share is that, for me, when we talk about shame and we talk about just society judging you, again, I am deemed in my community a public figure, right? And so with that, there is this pressure that comes, like you said, when all eyes are on you, when you're in your community of people who are looking up to you. I've always been a very private person. So when everything was happening, and the first person I told was my mother. My father is no longer, he's passed away. So I go to my mom and I'm telling her, hey, this has happened. And she's like, wait, what? I'm confused. Like, she's like, because she's like, I didn't know anything was going on. Well, it wasn't your business to know anything was going on. But then I waited to tell my family about the divorce. And when I finally did, it was sometime around like Thanksgiving and everything. And I said, I just wanted to, because they saw me kind of like living at my mom's, like in this transition period. And they're like, what is going on over here? And I remember having a conversation with my family, and I said, I'm going to say this. And when I say it, don't ask me any questions. It just is. Because y'all already know I'm private. So we're not going to, hash this out.
It's not a question and answer session.
It's not, right. It's just, here's the information, and I'm done. And so I deliver the message of, hey, he and I were, separated, and this, this is happening. And here goes my auntie. Well, I know you said not to, but and it was her questioning that pushed me into this place of, like, she was judging me, because my family is one that really prides themselves on marriage. Stick in it and go through it, and all those kind of things. So she was like, I don't understand, like, what happened? Life happened, that kind of thing. So I like to share the story of, like, for me to kind of come to grips with the fact that you are even in your family, even in your community, like with the young lady who sees us in the church community and she's like, wait, what? Why you didn't talk to us and told us that you was doing a thing? There's so much shame and there's so much judgment that comes with that, but we have to take care of ourselves first before we try to focus and please other. How many people for you that you've counseled have you experienced, like whether they're going through it, considering it, whatever, or have gone through it, that face that judgment that makes them kind of like go into the shell of things?
A lot of them.
Like that is a big one. Yeah.
I made my mom, I said, you can tell your family. I made her tell the family.
You made your mom tell the family? Oh, wow.
I said, you can tell the family. I'll let you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I told my, my friends, like my close friends, but yeah, I told her you can share that.
That is too funny. And I told my mom, you better not say nothing. You better, because I just wasn't ready to deal with the conversation. That's funny.
Wow. I knew they weren't gonna like ask like questions, stuff like that, but I was like, yeah, because our family is very supportive. I was like, y'all, they're all church people, but I was like, y'all can tell y'all's people.
That is too funny. Listen,
a lot of clients, they are, they have been very like closed. They tend to like close off and not want to share with people because. And I mean, and the reality is, when you think about it, no one really knows what goes on in people's houses. Nor really should they. When you're at church, I'm very observant. So I notice, I'm just naturally observant. So in dating, I pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
I people watch. So I'm just very observant about people's habits. So even when I'm in church, I notice couples, I notice things, I know who probably was upset, who was arguing in the car. I just notice things. So I probably, when I notice certain things, I already know. I see the writing on the wall already. But the average person, you shouldn't really know what's going on in people's houses.
You shouldn't.
For some people, if a couple, they already come to church separately, you wouldn't know whether they were together or not because they always come to church separately, So there's certain things that people act all shocked and surprised about when, the reality is nobody knows what goes on in people's houses. What you see at church. What the public view is of people. So, why are we acting surprised when things that are natural happen just because we are, in the church, as if these things are immune to us, because we're.
I think that's the biggest part because we're in the church. People feel like, well, should you be going through this? Should we? I hear the conversation of, well, did y'all pray hard enough? Did you press through all that stuff, that cliche stuff? And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. We are human.
Right.
What is going on here? You think we ain't praying? You think we ain't went through therapy, child? I mean, it just make sense. So, it's interesting. Yes, it is so interesting. Because I've always been an advocate for therapy, and I've always told people, even like with me, like being a therapist, I advocate for myself. Going to I see it as a part of annual maintenance. You know how we go to the doctor to get our well womans? It's the same thing. Girl, you good?
If you have a therapist that is not in therapy, that is not the therapist for you.
It's not.
If your therapist is not in therapy, that is not the therapy for you.
That's not a good thing because
we got our own stuff.
We listen
and we carry other people
and do. So, and we do, and you need that outlet. You need that unbiased person to come with you, and to have those tough conversations to make sure that you're good. So that's very, very important. That is so very important. I love it. Listen, guys, if y'all are new here, don't be shy. Make sure that you have checked out Angel. Make sure you guys have clicked in, checked out her bio. She is what I keep calling her the Texas therapist, like she's the only one. But in my mind, that's just what I'm saying, honey. But Listen, she is definitely a vibe. She is a relationship advocate, just like I am. And so, guys, make sure that you tune in, connect with her. She's a licensed professional counselor. She's been in this thing, and she has a heart for God's people. So definitely, we are having a conversation tonight about divorce, but we're not just staying there because we're also talking about healing and rediscovery for the people that's seasoned 40 plus, because that's the thing. So thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all for being here and all those good things. This conversation is going very fluid, and so I do appreciate her for her time for sure. No, so now I got a puzzle, honey. Let's see. Call it up to TikTok. It's like, let's get the puzzle piece. Okay, so I want to dive off into this rediscovery phase that people go through and about the new chapter, because we know that we know that we experience like the shell shock. You know, you have to deal with the devastation and then begin to demolish some things, and then you have to go through the healing process and all that. But there is, like you said, there's life after divorce. You know, there is a new chapter that people can experience. And so I want for you and I to take these moments to talk about that, and for people to embrace possibility and purpose, because purpose plays a huge part in this thing. So I want us definitely to talk about that, Angel. Just hear perspective about the new chapter, rediscovering and purpose. If you will.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, for me, like going through, so I've been divorced twice. And it wasn't until God gave me this book, because going through the first divorce, and I went through my therapy. I went through this divorce recovery class. I thought I was good. Like, okay, I learned what I needed to learn. I went through my healing process. I was good. I was ready to get back out there and dated a little bit. I was good. And then, I met someone else, and I thought, okay, this person was different than, anybody that I had ever dated. Also had been divorced. And what I quickly learned was that you should pay attention to what people do and not what they say.
That action is a lot.
What then proceeded was a very expensive lesson.
Oh my.
Very emotionally, financially expensive lesson. And what I will say is, had I not gone through that, I would not have learned what I really needed to learn, which was what happened.
I love that.
And as much as I hated going through that, as much as, the depression that came after, the forgiveness that I had to go through about myself, like forgiving myself. How did I end up here? I was as an educated, like Christian 2-parent home. My parents have been married 50 years in July. Like, how did I end up here?
Like, what in the world?
The anger with myself, because people are going to be who they are. And the unforgiveness that I had to go through for myself. And I realized that had I not gone through that, I would not have changed. I needed to learn this lesson, because people can tell you something all the time. People can tell you, don't do this, this is not right. But sometimes you have to go through things yourself. You have to walk through it for you really to get it. And I had to walk through that, because that really shaped how I viewed myself, how I viewed relationships, how I viewed my patterns, with men, and what I needed to change.
I love that.
What was still that hole that I had not considered.
I love that.
Was missing. So I went back to therapy, to a different therapist, and laid it all out and really dug deep and examined what that was and what was drawing me into allowing these relationships in my life. And really was able to get through my healing process and really understand. And from that, came this book. And, God used this to shift, me in the direction of this purpose. And
Yeah.
and it's interesting because as heartbreaking as the story was, and the book is not about, my story, but
Exactly.
it was, I didn't want to talk about this. I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
tell this. And I remember even writing this book, it was very emotional, but very cathartic for me.
Wow.
And after I wrote it, I held it for a couple years. And until I felt God say, okay, it's time to release it.
It's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time for you to share this because somebody
It's a
needs to hear
need.
this.
It's a need. Yep.
It's time for
Mm-hmm.
you to purpose this now
Yeah.
because
I
it
love that.
it was. I noticed a shift in my business. It was as if every new client I was getting was going through a divorce or a breakup.
Really?
I kid you not. It was
Wow.
every month I was getting a new client that was going through a divorce,
Wow.
and I
Wow.
was just like, okay, God, I see where you're
There's a
going.
message in it. There's purpose in it.
I see where
I
I see
love
where you're
that.
going.
I
I
love
see
that.
where
I think
you're
it's so important for us to be open, to embrace like this. And there's probably going to be some new dreams and desires, and like you said, like your business shifted. There's going to be some pivots that happen. That you need to be very open minded and not being stuck. And I know that you have this experience that you encounter people that they are so stuck, and it's just like sometimes it takes so much effort to help them to see that they need to kind of like pull themselves out, I guess you could say. And it's like, are you hearing me? Like, are you hearing me? But I love that you were bringing up the fact that like you did try to date again. Yeah, because a huge part of the journey of the new chapter, if it is a desire, is readiness.
going.
And so this is for me when it comes to healthy relationships, I try to really lean in on that because a person who truly is ready for a relationship, you need to be in alignment with someone who is ready for a relationship. And you don't need to just, like you said, you don't need to just hear the things that they're saying and value them and that they're great. Words are great, but I need to see
Actions
them lived
alive.
out. The action has to align. And so I think with those things and combining boundaries is very important. And that does get us to the new place where we can embrace, possibilities and still connect to our purpose in this life. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That was a very, very good point. Seriously, because I deal with a lot with the readiness aspect of things.
Because people will say anything.
They really will. Oh my
I
God.
mean, you have to, and that was something that for me was a struggle in relationships. Is like just like, oh,
Mm,
that sounds nice, and yeah, we'll promise you the world and promise you this, and oh, I'm going to do this, and this is what I want, and oh, I have these big dreams, you
yeah.
know, about what I want to do and accomplish in life. But
Yeah.
what are you doing now? Like
Now.
this is the dream you have and the vision you have,
Mm-hmm.
but what are you doing now towards that? What have you
Yeah.
been doing the last 3 months towards that,
Mm,
vision and dream? So you have to look at what people are doing,
yeah.
and that's
Would
not
you
just
say,
women, that's
Angel?
men too.
Would you say that this really puts you in a place to where you're now you know that you're open to basically to love yourself,
Oh
because
yeah.
this is a key thing, right? And
Mhm.
so what does like being open to love yourself in life again at
Mm.
this stage where you're like embracing this new beginning, what does that look like for you?
It is. I tell you, it took me a while, to get to this place. Like I fought to be at this place. And when you go through what you go through to get to the place where you feel confident and you
Mm-hmm.
are loving yourself and you're treating yourself well and you are so comfortable and at peace and joyful, in your life, it feels good to be at that place and you're very
Yeah.
protective of it. And you do the
Very.
things that you do to maintain it,
Yeah.
and
That's
so
so important.
yeah, and it creates an overflow.
It
So
does.
when you're in a place where you've been giving from a deficit for so long, you felt so empty, and then you get replenished, and now you have so much. Because I always say, I have so much love to give. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I still have so much love to give, and now it's from an overflow. So
Yeah.
I'm not giving to anybody else. That's why I'm so passionate about what I do. And I'm passionate about relationships, my friendships, my family, the people in my life. I have to give because I give and I fill myself up. So I'm able to give from an overflow because I pour into myself continually, you
I
know,
love that.
and that's the place that I am now. And
That's good.
anytime that you go into a dating space and creating this newness for yourself, you should be giving from an overflow. You shouldn't be
You should
giving
be.
from
Not from the
any
lack.
deficit. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
how you
That's
end up
good.
drained and tapped out. It should be from an
Mm-hmm.
overflow. So, I tell my
Yeah.
clients, if you're going to be dating, you need to make sure that you are at a place in your life where you are comfortable and confident where you are now as a single person,
Mm-hmm.
men and women.
Mm-hmm.
You should be comfortable and
Contentment.
confident and content where you are. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you can't desire a relationship and desire
Absolutely.
love and companionship
Right.
and all of that, but you should be in a
Absolutely.
place where you're content where you are.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
best place to be dating from because
That's
then you're
very
able to take
important.
your time. You're not in a rush. You are, able to clearly evaluate the people that you're dating to make sure that you are aligned with that person so that you're not just allowing whoever and whatever into your space. If you worked hard, the place that I'm at now, I've worked hard to be here. I've done the work on
Very
myself to
hard.
be at this place. And I'm
Yes.
not gonna just let any and everybody in this space. And
Yeah.
part of that is because I know my assignment. I know the purpose God has given me.
That's
So I
it.
can't I
Purpose.
can't just connect with anybody because
Yeah.
what I do is tied to other people's lives.
Yeah.
And
That's
when you know
good.
your purpose too, you know that I can't be over here a mess strung out over, some man that does me no good
It
because
ain't gonna work.
that means I can't be my best for my clients and the people that I serve and the purpose and mission that I have because I'm distracted and I'm distraught about
Yeah.
something else. So I'm very protective about my space and who I have
Mhm.
in my circle in my space for that
That's
reason
good
too.
stuff. I
So
love
you
that.
have to be mindful of those things.
Yeah. So, Angel, what would you say, like right now in this season of your life? What would you say? What does being open to love look like for you now?
I would say I'm open.
Like I'm open. We on the discovery of what that look like, honey.
I'm open.
Oh, I
The
love
doors, what they
that.
say, the doors
I
of the
love
church
your
are open.
honesty. The doors of the church are open, honey. Listen, I'm open.
The doors
That
of
is part of the process, though, is to
it
be
is.
open and allow it to evolve. I always like to ask people that question when it comes to going through a divorce and asking them where they are, because sometimes just to have that assessment of what does love look like, and I was sharing with someone the other day. I was like, child, because I was like, who gonna get married again? That's where I was. Yeah, you better sit down with all that. That's where my mindset was. And so it took for me to get to that open space in my heart to where I'm like, okay, I can feel again. I can connect again. I can get to that place I can trust in and I can build and everything like this. But like you said, it was because I knew that I was content, number one, in singleness and who I discovered myself to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't need a relationship,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't the
It's a
need,
beautiful place.
the
It's definitely
desperation.
yeah. I have this conversation with God. I feel like every day. Like I am definitely very content in my life. I love
Mm-hmm.
my life that I've built. I serve in my church. I have a wonderful
Yeah.
community of friends and everything. And it is a desire. I think it is my heart's desire
Mm-hmm.
because I love love. I'm a hopeful romantic. I will
Absolutely.
always champion love. Because I love love. So
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely my heart's desire. I'm not in a rush. I'm open
No
to it.
rush.
If that's God's, desire
Organic.
for me, yes. I had to get off the apps, recently because
I understand.
it was grieving my spirit.
Yes. I
And
think with the apps things, it kind of hit different
it's,
nowadays. It's real different.
I'm not down on the app because I feel like I
At
see lots
all.
of people
It's just different.
meet great, wonderful people on the apps,
Same.
and I'm just like, yay
It's just
for
different.
you. For me, for whatever reason, it just has not worked, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
God, maybe this is just not your way for me, and I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. So
Yeah.
that just may not be His way,
And I love that you put it like that. I love that you put it like that, though. Yeah, because I think even too, like, do you have you connected to where people try to connect with you on TikTok? And not that it's a dating app, but there's still like this a connection. So I think like people, anytime that there's people that's gathering, there's going to be eyes wondering if that kind of thing.
I feel like people who reach out I always feel like it's a scam. I'm very skeptical about social media reaching out. I'm just gonna be honest. I feel like it's a scam.
I thought it was just me.
I always feel like it's a scam. So I'm sorry if you reached out to me on TikTok. I feel like it's a scam. So I'm probably not gonna respond.
It's like, please don't be in my DMs, child. Them DMs go unread.
DMs. I always feel like it's a scam. I'm sorry. I just do.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, didn't I see your profile? Like, I just somebody.
Yes.
It just always feels like a scam. But I definitely, I'm always out and about throughout the city. Like I do a lot of networking things.
Yes.
So I'll be at church. So I feel like it's going to happen organically, naturally. I'm not saying
I agree.
Never to an app, but definitely not anytime soon. Because
it would be a resource, not an means to me.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because I was on in a Facebook group, and there was a message. I think I was on one app swiping, and then it was like at one point the app said there are no more men in your search criteria. Please change your criteria. And I was like, seriously? And literally the only two criteria was age and distance. Like that was the only thing. Age and distance. A certain age and the distance within a 60-mile radius. Wow. I'm like, so there's no more men. No more men with this age bracket. And it was funny because no more men in this age bracket in this 60-mile radius at all in the whole metro. Wow. And it was funny because somebody else posted a screenshot of the same thing. And so she was there like, please change your criteria. So she was like, basically, you want me to lower my standards. Exactly. Like, basically lower your standards, what you're saying. And I was I only have two. Just age and distance.
It's just age and distance. Like, this is an important thing.
Anything else. It was age and distance. Literally, that's it.
I love that. When I started out on a dating app, I was open to a longer distance. I was open. And I'm with you. Like, eventually you get to the point where it's like, to have the successful connection, let me shorten this. Get a little regional connection because this longer, it's just not necessarily working. So, like I said,
open to long distance at one point in time. I think now, just because of my involvement in church and like my business and the things that I'm doing, it would be a little bit more difficult. I'm not completely closed, but I think it would have to be a situation where like I'm traveling and I meet somebody and we, spark a connection and then we keep in touch that way. It wouldn't be like I meet you online and we're both long. I don't think that would work. It would have to be like an organic, like I'm traveling and I meet somebody out while I'm traveling and then we just stay connected that way. I think it would have to be like that. But yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, listen, good people, y'all, this has been a great session. I am here with my guest, Angel, Texas therapist. I cannot keep saying and repeating it again. If you have not done so, make sure you click on her and follow her. She actually does a group therapy session on Sunday for those that have gone through divorce. And it's just kind of like her gift back, her servanthood. And so you will find that, this is her way of being able to give back. But she is a licensed professional counselor. She does this for a living, honey. She is true to it. And just like many of us and myself, life be life, and just we go through things. So we have those relatable experiences. And so we take those experiences and try to help others in the process, and to make those connections so that we can be healed and we can be made whole, honey, because we don't want to be out here stuck in a rut. We just can't. And I think that's just such a sad place to be, that you don't have to be. So yeah, I'm really excited that you have joined me. I do want to say, guys, if y'all are in the comments and y'all have questions, you're more than welcome to ask her a question that you may have. But I do want to encourage you guys that have gone through divorce. I want to have Angel to definitely give some encouraging words for those that are on their journey, not just about divorce. It's just on the journey of life, because we're talking about, the fact that we want to be in this new chapter. So, just encouraging them about the new chapter. So what would you give as far as encouraging words to the good people?
I would definitely say, if you, whatever new season you may be in, whether it's, ending a relationship, starting a new relationship, going into a new career, whatever it may be, that's a new thing for you. One, to embrace it. I know a lot of people don't like change. It's the anxiety of the unknown.
Yes.
Right. But to know that sometimes something new is one for your good. Sometimes we need to break out of our comfort zone and to do something new, because you never know what that new thing could be doing for you, could be shaping your growth and development, what it could be teaching you. So embrace the new, embrace the change, embrace that growth. So that's number one. And make sure that you have support. I don't know how many times I can preach the importance of having support in life, because that is just so major. I see so many people who are, self-proclaimed loners, who just like to be, don't want to deal with people, who don't people, as they say. But we were not meant to be in life alone. We were all meant to be interconnected. So that is so important, to have someone, at least, in your life, that is a support for you, where you have that community, because we all need people. We go through difficult things in life, and you need someone you can call on when you need just somebody to listen to you, somebody to sit with you, somebody to help you, just, tell me something funny and get my mind off of these things, or just come hang with me.
Definitely.
Get my mind off of the troubles of the world, because life is just getting more stressful. I'm just telling you. That's just, secrets out. Life is just getting more stressful. There's going to be more stress that's coming. So
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So we need to have people in our life that are there for us, that are going to be rallying around us and providing us that support. So make sure that you have support for yourself. And sometimes when you go through different seasons, you need different support. I noticed just going through divorce. When I was married, I had married couple friends. When you get divorced, you now become the single friend. You're the single one.
And then have to find single friends
in a group of married people. So it's not that you just don't have those friends, but that relationship changes.
It's different.
When I was married, it first started off, we were all like married with no kids. Then, my ex and I didn't have kids. So now we were the married, no kids, with the marrieds with kids. So
wow.
Then you divorce. Now you're single, no kids, with the married with kids.
Yes.
So
oh my goodness.
Wow. Coordinator trying to hang on people. So I had to find people who were in my same life situation. So I had to find my group with, I think women who had like adult kids or no kids, so that I had people to hang out with. So you have to find whatever season of life you're in. You have to find your people, because you need people who are going to be in your season life. If you're a single mom, find, women with kids around your kids' age. If you're, single mom, your kids are older, find people in that group. You're single, no kids, find your group. You're single man, find your group. Find the people who are in your season of life. Empty nester, find the people who are in your season of life. Whenever your season of life changes, you don't have to drop the friends you have, but you need to find community in that.
Definitely connect. Yeah.
So that you have that relatability with those people. That has been really key for me.
Yeah. I had someone in the comments ask, do you take VA insurance? They always asking me that too.
What is VA insurance? Is that like
I'm like,
military?
what's the name of the VA? It's military insurance. Yeah.
Okay. No, I've been trying to get on. They're hard to get on
They
to.
are. They are very hard.
I think I feel like I've reached out to them a couple times, and
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
Flags, you can definitely go to her Veterans Affairs. Yes. So you can definitely go to her link. Her website is in her link, and so you can go and just take a look. Because maybe you calling it Veterans Affairs, maybe you have Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Maybe, yeah, that's true too. Because that's something that a lot of people they have like if you work for a company, sometimes their company you may have one for medical and a different one for behavioral health.
Yep.
So,
and that's exactly. He said, "I got Humana too."
I got you got all of them.
He got all of them. Oh my Lord, that is too funny. Oh, Angel, I really do. I appreciate you being here tonight. I'm very conscious of my guest time, and I always try to make these to a certain extent, but then I don't hold it longer than what it have to, because you have given so much substance. I thank you for your vulnerability and your transparency on tonight. It is so needed and necessary, and so I can't wait to upload this to YouTube so that it can be shared out and be placed, because the key thing is that people will definitely, they're going through these life situations and they need to hear this. It's a comfort. Yeah. And so I appreciate that, with us being in this field, being therapists and also servants. This is a big thing for me. Being in ministry, we understand the assignment. And so just your willingness to give back is so powerful. So I really appreciate you coming and spending this time. So do you have anything else for the good people tonight that you would like to share before we check out?
I am just so happy to be here. My heart is always to serve and to help.
So good. Yeah. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here.
Good stuff. Now listen, y'all good people, we have been on here and I know that you guys have been edified. Welcome to the Love Lab. We have come to our conclusion. If you have not done so, make sure you guys have clicked on her bio. And if we log off and you were like, I wasn't going out of the live, I wanted to stay put with you, make sure you go and click and tap in and check out the information that she have with the links in her bio. Follow her, tune in. And guys, if you know anyone that is in need of being a part of a group therapy session, listen, send them her way. She's giving free advice on Sundays. Come on now. Listen, it's free to you guys. Just show up. So I am so grateful that we have people that are willing to come and be about community and want to bring people together and really care about God's people in that kind of way. So thank you, my dear. I appreciate it. And this will not be our last time of coming together. So until next time, good people, you owe it to yourself. So you have to pay what's due, honey. That's my favorite saying. Listen, we owe it to ourselves, so you pay what's due.
Yes,
listen, I think we got somebody in the comments that's definitely going to be in group therapy with snacks. Oh my gosh. They gonna come in and just set up and just do it. But she welcome you in. That's hilarious. But thank you so much, guys. Until next time, this is actually the conclusion to my season for the Love Lab. So it will be in prayer about when I bring it back on. But definitely, I am grateful that you came to be a part of this, and this is the last episode for this season. So stay tuned, and when the next season is ready, you guys will know about it. So we'll be there. Now, somebody in the comments says, when you going to invite the love doctor? We're both therapists, so we're the love doctors. Y'all have a blessed night. Be blessed and be a blessing. Good night, love. Such a great conversation, guys. If you are here, this is the Love Lab. Thank you so much for being present and being a part of the conversation. I have had my host up, which is Brother James. He has been a phenomenal guest thus far, and you guys understand why I have him up here alone, because this man is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And so tonight we literally have been going over the topic of dating over 40. We're talking about still desiring love, facing our fears, and now we're on choosing commitment. And this is just an important part of the puzzle. A lot of times, if you ever hear me, I am an advocate for healthy relationship. I want to see people thrive in that space when it comes to relationship. And so I don't want people to come into spaces like here on TikTok and be defeated by the things that they're hearing. So just like you hear a lot of the negative things that are going around on these live streams and everything, I think it's very important for someone like myself and other people that I am connected with is to be able to spread the positivity that is needed to say, you know what, you can have hope in this space. I don't care what the world is trying to tell you, but I'm telling you that you can have hope in this space. So but definitely I'm so grateful. I don't know if his battery died because that could happen. But I am glad that he definitely came in because we literally was into our segment number 3. And with our segment number 3, yes, Jay, the love coach, you're absolutely right. Covenant is the key. And so, for me, being in this place of knowing like to move from casual to covenant, I have learned personally, it has to be a choice that you make, that you're going to stick to your standards. You have to, and you can't divert from them. The world will tell you, no, it's okay to do this until you get to what you want in life and what you're trying to achieve when it comes to a relationship. But on the contrary, no, we shouldn't be. That's the compromise. That's the settling mentality that so many people get into and is engaged. So absolutely not. We should be so very laser focused on being content with who we are until we connect with the person and is aligned with the right person for us. And then we can be able to move into those spaces, because we are definitely aligned. And let me go ahead and take care of this real quick. We are aligned to the point to where we know that we have this connection together. And so we have to trust the process. A huge part of this is about purpose. One of the things that I learned when I came to social media is that there were, for me, because I'm not interested in dating or marrying a woman, but for me, I noticed that there were a lot of men who lacked purpose. And I was floored just by hearing the conversation. But if you know that you are doing the work and you have put yourself in a position to where you've worked, because it's about being whole. When you present yourself to one, it's about doing the healing work. And then when you meet your person, you will be able to see, are they in their purpose? You're going to be able to know it. You're going to be able to pinpoint it. You're going to be able to pick those things out. So that's very important for us to do our due diligence on this journey and not wait for our person to just show up and then begin. That's very important. One of the points that I wanted to make also tonight was about emotional safety. We were actually, I was on live. I wasn't supposed to be on live the other night, but we were talking about emotional safety and the security of what that does to us. And so I know that when it comes to commitment, when we get to that space and we're talking about moving to that space where we're being consistent with each other and I can choose this person and feel confident that they're my person, emotional safety, and then also shared values and alignment are 3 key things that I believe should be a part of the recipe when we're talking about commitment. And a lot of times you will hear people talk about that they're aligned, but they don't necessarily have the shared values in common. And also, if they keep going, the emotional safety tends to go out the window. We have to be very careful in this space to where, again, when we're talking about vulnerability, can I get with my person and can I get to this place to where I'm safe with them? And because, men talk about the peace that they have in their life. Some men talk about that and they talk about this peace that they have in their life. And at the end of the day, if this man has peace, then he already, in essence, has a level of safety if he's done the work. And so when you come into that as a woman, then there is a level of emotional safety. It's not that men lack emotions, because that is such a lie. It's not that men lack emotions, but literally there has to be a place that man feels safe and he's comfortable to be able to share in that space the emotional, because again, it's so frowned upon. Be tough, be a man, man up. You hear all these things that even our young boys are being told at such a young age. So it's important for us to be able to create that, especially if we are talking about getting into committed relationships. And so then I had the question of, are people really truly ready to build? I say no, honey. Are people really truly ready to build? That's a big question. Or are they just dating out of habit? And so I'm going to not say, no, people are not ready to build, because that's not a true statement, because people are out here winning in relationships. People are out here literally having healthy relationships. They're getting married. They're going the distance and everything. But just like there are people that are out here believing in love and going the distance and making it happen, there are definitely plenty of people, y'all hear me very well, that are out here literally just dating out of habit. Dating like it's a sport. So we have to be very careful about that. Brother James, I do want to apologize because I'm running my mouth, and I wish you would have told me that you was back in here, because he didn't even tell me you had came back. But I know you've been listening to me just talk. I don't know what happened. That's okay.
The screen had froze. That never happened.
Yeah, but you know what? Because we were in a good conversation. But it's okay, because listen, I'm a talker, so I'll keep going. But I was literally talking and sharing this conversation about, are people truly ready to build, or are they just dating out of habit? I really want you to take that and run with that. And what do you think about that statement? Are people truly ready to build, or are they just dating out of habit nowadays? What's your perspective?
From some of the people that I've talked to, they'll get out of a relationship, and before they even go through the healing process, to the point where they're really healed, they feel as though they need to jump back into a relationship.
Yes.
So they don't feel like they're whole unless they're in a relationship. But while you're in a relationship, where is it going? Is it growing? Do you still get upset about the same thing that you got upset with when you first met her or when you first met him? Have we grown together? The little things, like I was explaining, my wife was coming out of the department store. She had went in the department, so I stayed in the car. So once she came out the door, I drove the car around and I pulled in front. So she got in and she looked at me and she said, I can tell, she said, you really love me, don't you? Because every year I step up to something.
Yeah.
And so
that's good stuff.
You will know if someone is actually wanting to build because of the things that they're doing. The relationship is moving forward. Other than someone just coming in a relationship because they feel like, I don't want to build on. Some people, now this goes for men and women. I know a lot of men are going to disagree with me.
Absolutely.
But
it's okay. You're safe here, Brother James.
There are some people that do just date out of habit. They don't want to be alone. And a lot of men will admit that they're angry before they admit that they're hurt. Okay?
My.
And so a lot of men date out of habits. A lot of men get in a relationship out of habit. It's not going anywhere. You're not growing. You're not expanding or anything. And so I remember when my wife and I first got married, our first year of marriage, she said, you know what? Every year we need to gain something.
Yes.
And so at the beginning of the year, we talk about, even after 28 years, we talk about the previous year. What all did we accomplish and where are we today?
That's maintenance.
A couple that's trying to go somewhere.
Yes.
If you are just dating out of habit, then you have no plan.
Yeah.
You have no plan. There's a difference between planning and wishing. There's a big difference,
Definitely.
So with a plan, you're actually taking step by steps. When you're just wishing for something, you're not putting together no action steps to bring that to pass. So, I was changing not for me anymore. That was over because I understood it. Now I'm a husband. I'm a father.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What must I do? Where am I falling short? You know? And so a friend of mine and I, we went to this, it was like a 16-week men's conference where we would go once a week. And it was like over 100 men in there. And it was a gentleman, he was a DJ here. His name is Katie Bowe, and he was the host. He and a pastor. One of the things that we had to do was they gave us this list. And on this list, it said, what kind of husband am I? Where do I fall short? What do I need to improve upon? What am I good at? And it was like 9 questions. We had to take those papers home and give it to our wives, and they had to sign it.
Wow.
Once they did it, we came back and we read it to everybody in the building. We went ahead and graduated from the class. They had a ceremony and all that. Another friend of mine went to that same class, and he called me and said, did y'all go through this part? I said, what, you got to take your paper home? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, we did. I said, why? What's going on? He said, man, I went and picked my son up from football practice the other day. He says, I was bringing him home. I asked him about it. He said, yeah. He said he was in there when their mother was signing it. And he said, so what do you think? His son got quiet. He said, come on, talk to me. His son turned to him and said, Dad, sometimes we wish you wouldn't come home.
Whoa.
And I was like, whoa.
Wow. Now that's deep.
It was a quiet ride all the way home.
Woo.
He told her, he said, go in there and get your sister. So the daughter came out, and the daughter said, when you tell us that you have overtime, we love it. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning of the relationship, it was all about moving forward. It was all about prospering. Okay. Then all of a sudden it fell short, and it was just, we're married now and we're just together, you know? And so it turned toxic on his part.
On his part, yes.
Yeah. And this is why I tell a lot of men, we got to stop this thing about holding this stuff in. Yeah. You know, and I was speaking to a group the other day, and we was talking about this month being Alcohol Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. I said, so many of us live with these stigmas over our head. Don't cry, suck it up, don't be a punk, all this stuff. And I said, and to cope with that, we use certain things just to cope with it. And I said, alcohol being one of them. You know, anger. Big one. You know, so many different things. And I say, until we deal with that strategically and deal with that to understand where you are, it's going to continue to haunt you, and it's going to end up messing up your professional life as well as your personal life. And so I think if you're just in a relationship and it's just a habit, be honest with yourself. Do you really want to grow and go somewhere with this person? Do you really, or are you just there? You have to be honest with yourself to say, do I really want to build with this person right here? Do I really think that this person can go to wherever heights you want to go to, right? Are your plans important? Or this person just saying it's just their plans? Whenever they talk, do they talk to you as a couple, or do they talk to you as what they want to do? How are you included in their plan? Are you there to help build for the both of you, or are you there just to build that person? And if you're there just to build that person, does that person spot that and say, no, we're doing this together? Yeah. So it all comes down to that response. So then once you gather all that stuff, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to move on with this person? Mm-hmm. And then if you don't, again, I'll say it again, one of the worst things you can ever do is not be honest with yourself. Yep. You got to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people tend to waste, or let me not say waste time, but they invest time unwisely. Right. And so that is like a key thing for me. And it's like, no time is wasted. We're doing something. Everything that we do in life, there's an experience, and we should be learning and growing from it, good, bad, and indifferent. Right. And so I think that that's very important for us to be able to look at these situations that we are experiencing and, have the takeaway and say, you know what?
that was a bad decision that you had made.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you going to move differently now? So that's just key. And I want you to take me to this place because I know that you are a man of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that when it comes to relationship, when it comes to love, when it comes to courting and the covenant, marriage, timing definitely is a thing.
Right.
And so I want you to talk about how can people, again, guys, if y'all are just tuning in, Brother James been rocking it and holding down. He and Wifey James is who I'm gonna call her. Listen, she's a beautiful woman. I can tell she has a beautiful spirit. But they have been married for 28 years, and I just love how he speaks to the leader that he is, and he always ties that back to his God purpose. You gonna always hear him point back to his God purpose, and so I love that, and I love how your wife has aligned with you in this journey that you guys have said yes together and decided, you know what, we're going to figure this out together. And that's a beautiful, beautiful testament to your story. But let's talk about faith, timing, and choosing love daily. How, based off of your experience now, how can you communicate to people who are seeking love and want to have love? How can you communicate to them to continue to have faith and to trust God's timing and to choose love daily?
I would say until that happens, like you said, that you know that you are a wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you getting an understanding of the process that you're going through. There's an old saying, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
I remember Whitney Young, the late Whitney Young. He said, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. I say your faith in God should exist every day. And it should grow stronger through the study of God's word and through the experiences that you have through his word. Because everything that's imparted into you, you're going to have to walk it. And you're going to have to go through those dark valleys and everything that the word of God can become true to you. You got to go through it. Mm-hmm. So I would say every day grow your faith through your studying, through your experiences. And if you are striving and say, hey, I want to be a husband one day, you got to understand what that means. Yeah. You got to understand what that means from God's perspective, as far as husband, not from TikTok, not from any other social media site, which there are a lot of people on here that's speaking the very same thing that I'm speaking. Right. But you have to continue to improve upon yourself, okay? Yes. Because you can get the very person that you've been praying for, but here's the thing, and I learned this the other day. Do you have the stamina or the perseverance to stand in that what you say you want? That's real. Because, and does that person have to have all these qualities when you meet them, or can they grow into it? You know?
Good point.
And so it's a building process every day. And you have to keep in mind that this person that you want, they want something too. Yeah. So the very sacrifices that you are expecting her to make, she's going to be expecting something from you as well. So are you willing to say, I want a good woman? Okay, how does that look? You know, so when you get down into details like that, you know, people start to stutter. Only because they haven't pondered those questions.
That's it. That's where it's at.
I want her, if you say, okay, this is the kind of woman I want. Okay. Well, what if she comes in and says, you know what? These guys you hanging around, they're no good for you. And these been your friends for years. And she comes in and points out everything. Are you willing to stand in that the same way you want her to stand in what you want her to do? Wow. So when you meet this person, they have certain expectations as well. Mm-hmm. So my question is, are you willing to conform to what they want, just like you want them to conform what you want? If that can happen, out of that becomes something beautiful. So your faith has to be built every day. If you believe that one day I'm going to run into this person, if that's what you believe, and I say start preparing yourself now.
Yeah. Preparation is the key.
Look at the relationship as a whole. What is it that you're doing that the relationship don't need? If you are a womanizer, you have no business in a relationship. None
My
whatsoever.
goodness.
You
My
got to learn
goodness.
how to come out those streets.
Mm.
If you are a person that's given to anger, you got to deal with that because it's going to come out somewhere. I was told from family members of mine, well, anger runs in our family. No, that's become a habit. Whatever you put into practice.
It's a habit. Absolutely.
Whatever you consistently put into practice become habits, and those habits become a lifestyle. So I was that kind of person that was given to anger. But from that came high blood pressure, bad health, all these things.
Just messing up your health.
Boy, just messing me up. So I had to come out of that, and I had to ask myself the hard questions. And you know what, Doc? Here's where it gets harder.
Okay.
I can ask myself, okay, why are you so angry? Yeah. But when you ask me, why am I angry? It hits a little different.
It hits different,
because another person sees it. So I will say, just it's an everyday process. Just like leadership, I remember John Maxwell in his book 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He said that leadership happens daily, not in a day. And so, work on yourself. Work on the things that you know that will be toxic to any relationship you get in. Yeah. And knowing that it has to be a communication, both of you all got to listen to each other if this is where we're going. So I would say just work on it every day. If you'll believe in God for it, you'll start getting yourself in a position to receive whatever God is bringing.
I love that. That's some good wisdom right there. I really love that. I definitely want to ask you a couple of more questions, and I do want to take a moment to pause and ask our audience, number one, if you guys still believe in love, put a red heart in the comments. If you still believe in love, in spite of what you're going through, put a red heart in the comments. I do want to give them an opportunity. If you have a question, you can ask that question. Thank you so much for sharing that you guys believe in love. I know that I do. I see that there's a lot of red hearts. I love it. Yeah. But I do. Red hearts. I love it. Yeah. But I do. I do want to have an opportunity for, if you guys have some questions that you want to ask Brother James, you definitely can pose a question in the comment section, and I'll read that. I'm going to throw a question out here as you guys are preparing your mind. But get a question that he can answer for you before we sign off tonight. This has been a great time of share. He said that he has not been live streaming, but he's going to start back live streaming. God bless and say the same on this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. still. Yep. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. Which one?
Eastern Standard Time.
Because we all over the place.
Right.
So he said he's going to start back on his live streams, and he's going to be doing that. Make sure that you click on his bio and you're following him. If you're not following, I think it's so very important for us to connect to good people who really can help us get through this life journey. So please make sure that you connect and go tune in and support. And also, when you see him on other panels, go tune in and listen to see what has to be said. Because I guarantee you, if he's sitting on a panel, it's some good ground over there. Okay. It's some good ground. I want to ask you, this is some of the questions that some of single people would ask, and they would want to know, how can they know if someone is really serious about commitment?
You'll see it consistently in their actions. Actions says a lot of things. I did a post, I think it was last year, and I said, be careful of the people who come back into your life after they have hurt you.
Oh my.
Just because they say they're sorry, anyone can do that.
Yeah.
If they have not put in the work, and an apology is an action word. An apology is, I'm never going to do that again. Okay? An apology is, they are seeking they've been seeking things to ensure that whatever they're doing won't happen again.
Change
So you
behavior.
have to look at their consistency, you know, and don't be so captivated by this person that you act like you don't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not judging, but you're looking at their inconsistencies, you're looking at their flaws, and you're looking at their contradictions. If that happens consistently, then you know that that person is not so much as they're not a good person, they're not relationship material, they haven't evolved yet. Then the question has to be, do you really want to evolve? To evolve? And so it takes you asking Brother James, listen, you've done this several times. Okay? Now it's become a pattern. Now it's become a habit.
Patterns don't lie.
Exactly. So
yeah,
that may be something that may be, obviously it is a red flag. Now, but at the same time, are they doing anything to stop that? That consistency that they're doing. If you don't say anything, they're gonna think it's okay. Why? Many of them got away with it in their past. Some women put up with it, so now they feel like they can bring that to you. Some men, some women put up with it, or some men put up with it. So now they bring it to you because no one has ever checked them. It could be that. Yeah. There was several times when my wife had to check me, because sometimes you're the last to know that you are behaving in that manner. Yeah, until someone points it out. I always got this old saying: if 5 people in one night tell you you're drunk, you need to sit down.
Listen, sit down somewhere.
Exactly. So watch their consistency. Watch their consistency and know what to ask. That's how you're gonna know if someone is committed or they're in if they have a commitment to the growth of your relationship, because it's the little things that they do. Okay, are they really listening? Okay, I don't like red, and then they bring you a red rose. You know what I'm saying? So they're not listening. You know, it's the little things that she says. She may be talking to you and turn her head and make a statement. Just out of habit, did you hear that? Did you hear what he said? I was raised by a single mother. Now, did you hear him? And my mother was very A, B, and C. So did you hear that? Now you see his behavior. So even though he's being consistent and doing things that doesn't show commitment, now you understand why. But it has to be pointed out to him. Okay? So if you point something out in the most gentle way as you can, and he gets offended, then you back off and say, okay, he may be a person that hates correction. She may be a person that don't like correction. So you have to count all of that. I'm not saying let that be a deal breaker for you, but
it need to be factored in.
Yes, that will determine that how fast the relationship goes. Sometimes you're gonna have to slow down because they're not there yet. Yeah. But you have to let them know. Okay, you have to let them know this is what I've been saying. We've been in this restaurant for the last hour, and you looked at every other woman except me. So you have to point that out. Yeah, you have to point that out, because like my uncle always told me, a woman spots another good-looking woman before you do. So yeah, you just watch their behavior. Their behavior says a lot. It says a lot.
Flagzilla, he asked a question, and he wanted to know, how long did it take for you to rediscover your purpose?
When I'm gonna be honest, I went to a club one night, me and some friends of mine. I didn't want to go, but they encouraged me to go anyway. Once I got home, I'm laying on the bed. I was drinking back then and laying flat on my back, and the ceiling just spinning. And I was like, God, I'm tired. I am so tired of this. I don't want this anymore. And I specifically said, I want to be married and I want to build a family. I specifically said, I got up the next day and I went to this church that so many of my friends was telling me to go to. That is when I heard about personal development.
Okay.
That started it. So it took me, my journey started immediately. So I knew that I was a child of God. It wasn't just something I was just saying.
Yeah.
In the process, it started to mean something to me. So now, when it came to me rebuilding myself, I was very intentional. I wanted to be married. So at that point, like I said, I had a lot of influence in my ears telling me, hey, if that's what you believe, then start learning how to be a husband.
Yeah.
And I looked at my dad and I saw the kind of man he is, you know. And so other men that I talked to. And so the journey just began. And I'm still on that journey.
It's still going. Because it is ongoing. It is very ongoing.
My dear brother, you're going to continue discovering that your purpose has so many layers to it.
Yes.
So many layers. Because you're talking about knowing your purpose and fulfilling that purpose. So it's one thing to know this is my purpose. Now we have to fulfill that purpose. So your purpose has to have, number one, it has to make sense.
Yes.
It has to make sense. So your purpose has to be directed. It has to be driven. It has to have meaning, you know, and it has to be intentional. If it doesn't have all of that, then your purpose is not effective. Okay? So you want your purpose to be effective. The one thing that I did know and I got from scripture where it says it is the duty of a man to serve God.
Yes.
So that's what I started doing. And in the process of serving, that's when everything starts to make clear. And like I say,
it's the service. Yes.
Yeah. That's then good. I'm thinking, okay, I got this thing and I keep meeting people. They're showing me what I don't have. I meet this person. I don't have. I met you. Okay. Yeah, she makes sense. I never thought about it, you know. So a lot of things that you say, I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. You know, even when I was on a live the other night and Dr. Tony was on there, she was saying some things. I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. So
that's that iron sharpening iron. That's how it works. Yes.
It's that continued process of just learning and growing, but you got to start. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. You know,
Absolutely.
So you just got to get started. Just get started. Whatever's in your heart to make yourself better, get started. And you'll start to get clarity along the way.
That's good. One question that I do have for you is how would you encourage someone that they desire marriage, but they haven't found the one yet? And I want you to first speak to the men from that aspect and then encourage the ladies from that aspect. Like they desire marriage, but they just have not found that person. So
be very clear what you want. Be very clear what you want. You have to ask yourself the question, does she have to possess this when she comes in? Have a good understanding of what you want as well. And understand the process. Once you meet her, she's going to want something too. So making sacrifices goes both ways. Okay. There are some things that you're going to have to drop in order to be with her. Just like there's some things that you want her to drop. You know, I would say to all men, you know, understanding your purpose, that's a journey. But being a responsible man, you know, taking care of your situation right now so you can sustain yourself. Because let's be honest, I told you I'm a realist, okay?
Yeah.
So if I'm in a relationship with a woman and we are in what I say a relationship, you're gonna have to spend some money, brother. I'm sorry. I know you don't like to hear that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to spend some money.
You're gonna have to spend some money.
Yes,
it's an investment.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to, you know, so you want to make sure that your stuff is together. You want to make sure that you have put in the work for yourself so you can be a sustainable man. Stop saying you want someone to submit to you, but what are they submitting to? That's the question. Same with the women. Even with the ladies, be very, very strategic in what you want. Don't settle. Absolutely. Don't settle. And please, again, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but that's fine. Again, why is it that you have to lower your standards for someone else? Why can't they raise theirs?
Raise it up. Yeah.
Yes. You lowering your standard. Now, you got to understand something. And I'm speaking to women now. You lower your standards, right? The person you're lowering your standards to, that's their comfort zone.
Yeah.
They're good right there.
Say that.
You're the one that's down there drowning. Okay?
Yeah.
And so when you're lowering your standards, is it coming back up? Because you're lowering your standards to make sure that they're secure, but are they trying to raise it back up? Because if you lower your standards for me and say, okay, I'm gonna put up with this, and I see that you do it, I should reciprocate that by, okay, she was willing to make the sacrifice for me. Now I know what I need to do. And you should allow both parties to be honest. There should always be a conversation where the both of you, it depends on what the relationship is, how it looks. There should always be a conversation of, what is it that I'm doing wrong? What is it that I'm doing right? I had to bring a paper home from what my wife signed and go back and read it in front of 100 men.
Ooh.
Yes. So those questions I needed to know.
Transparency.
Yes. You know, because my wife may not say nothing because she loves me. You know, I don't want him to get upset. But no, I need to deal with that. I need to deal with that. If my wife won't come to me because she's afraid that I'm going to get upset, I got something to work on.
That's a problem. Yes.
That's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem.
Wow.
So I would say
that is huge.
Don't lower your standards. Yeah, just have that open conversation with that person, you know. You have to have it. And you got to be willing to receive whatever the response is.
I love that you've actually expressed that, because that's been a big thing that, you know, coming into singleness, I would hear men that would basically project that, oh, your standards are too high. Like, what? Because when you look at if you know that you're a person that's in their purpose, and you've been thriving, and you're putting in this work, and you're doing all these things to better yourself and to evolve, like, I couldn't even process that. Well, what do you mean like this? And so I'm with you. Like, we should never get to a point to where we settle, in essence, lowering ourselves and to make them comfortable. A person that is going to love you and want to be committed to you and have an experience with you should be doing the work to come up to literally, and it's not even about like getting on my level, as some people say, or matching my energy. Right. No. I like what you said about, do they have the thing in them right now? Like, if they don't have it, are you okay with that? But the other coin to that is, are they willing to work towards a thing? Right? Because that's where alignment comes into place, that we're not perfect. We should be growing. And so in that space, how about I accept you for who you are? And if I can do that, and I know that you have the ability to do some of the things that you said that you're going to do, I can live with that. And I think that's something that's very important.
Right. Yeah, it is. And notice what you said. You said lower your standards to make them comfortable.
Comfortable.
If your comfortable is toxic to the relationship, then you're not going to grow. You're not even going to try. And there you are, lowering your standards to them, and with the hopes that they can grow out of whatever it is that's hindering them, and they're not doing it. This is one of the things. We had a men's conference a while back, you know, just a men's gathering. And when I got there, after it was over, a gentleman that I worked with, he asked me, what did I think? I say, you want me to be honest? And he said, yeah, be honest. I said, it was too many women there. Oh. And he said, wow. I said, think about this now. Woo. I said, It was a men's conference.
Wow.
I said, women have conferences all the time.
All the time.
You know, and I said the biggest voices in the room were the women, you know. Wow. I said certain things that men wanted to say, they held back.
They weren't going to say it in their room.
They weren't going to say it, you know. And I said, I understand it because, and I got another guy reached out to me, and he said, and he invited me out. It was about a month or so ago. And when I get there, the women was upset because he wouldn't allow them in. He said, no, this is our time. So a lot of single mothers, they wouldn't even bring their sons because of that.
Oh,
you know?
no.
A lot of other women was in support of it, But we was like, at least for the first 3 meetings, let it just be us. And in the meeting, we talked about if you're being raised by a single mother, how to respect her, how to love her, and how to, not so much as you're the man of the house, but you are a solution to whatever issue she has. She may come to you, certain things that you can do around the house while she's carrying a weight on her. There's certain things that you can do around the house that can lift some of the burden off of. That's what we was talking
Absolutely.
about. So
wow.
Yeah, you don't remember now, you lower your standards to make them comfortable, and once a person gets comfortable, they're not gonna move.
They're not gonna move. Yeah, I think that's so very important. I really know that when people come to the Love Lab, and I always say, because I see the numbers, and so and so the numbers tell me that there's a lot of people that don't necessarily click the button to come in, but they be listening on the outside. Right. And so, Brother James, Brother James, I really truly do. I thank you so much for being present with me tonight. I thank you for your willingness to serve tonight, because that's a big thing. Because I know that you are a man that, you're here to give of service. Right. And so I just want to continue to encourage you to do what you're doing, because it is so needed in this time. And so I want to, yet again, if you have anything that you want to share with the people that are here tonight, please do so, because I do want to be respectful of your time. And I think we're great. We have come to an end, guys. This has been an amazing Love Lab podcast of transparency and wisdom and just truth and testimony, honey. But so is there anything that you would like to further share with our people tonight?
Yeah, love is still real. It hasn't gone anywhere. There are hurt people. And so that's why when you hear people putting out certain content, a lot of them are hurt. They're hurt because they invested in, they planted seeds in the wrong ground, and they didn't get the harvest that they were looking for. And now they're hurt, He did this to me, where he never said he loved you. He never said it. But you assume that he did, So love still, we just have to get an understanding of what love is, I had a gentleman tell me one time, he don't want love, he want respect. And I'm like, if they don't, I said, love is respect. I said, love
they go together.
Yeah, I'm like, you read this 1 Corinthians chapter 13 wrong.
Yeah.
Love is an umbrella under love, and I'm gonna do a lesson on this. Under the umbrella of love, you find communication, you find intimacy, you find respect. You find joy. You find sacrifice. You find, and this may be profanity to some people, you find grace under love.
Why is that profanity?
Because those of us who know what grace is, God shows us grace even when we don't deserve it.
Absolutely.
But if I show my wife grace, I'm a simp. So who am I going to listen to? You, or I'm going to listen to the Most High? So I just continue to believe in love. You don't give it to everybody, but love grows and love matures. So just don't ever think that it's not out here. Don't ever think that it's not any good women out here. There's some amazing women out here.
Amazing.
Some amazing men out here. So stop listening to the rhetoric out here. There's no such thing as alpha. There's no such thing as red pill. All that stuff is made up. Okay.
It is a masculine man, though.
So just that would be my encouragement. Don't give up on love.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Listen, guys, thank you so much for literally attending the Love Lab on tonight. This has been such an amazing conversation. I am truly edified. Literally, when I walk away, you guys literally pour into me. And I think that that's just amazing, because typically I am one that is a talker, but I really have been led to kind of formulate this to allow for the voices to kind of be more heard than Doc speaking, right? Because I do it all the time. So I need to, I go and I do these conferences and everything. And so it's about bringing people who are like-minded and like-hearted, but live their own paths, and create that exposure so that we can touch the lives of other people and literally that hope and encouragement. So I appreciate that. Guys, listen, like I told you, if you have not done so, make sure that you are following Brother James. I am definitely going to download this and put this on YT YouTube. If you're not aware, my link is in the bio, so you can definitely go over and subscribe. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're tuned in and that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, and look for some little snippets to come, because y'all know I'm going to be posting snippets as well. So look for those to come as well. And I'm more than likely it'll be probably Saturday when I'll start posting a whole bunch of snippets. So if I'm tagging you and going crazy, you know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
It's me. But I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. And definitely when, if I ever have something that come up, I know that I can trust you to come and handle it. And I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, guys. Make sure before we leave out that you guys put a little white heart in the thing. I'm just kidding. That's like, dang, I gotta go find a white heart. No, you don't. That's my thing. But I appreciate you guys. Listen, you owe it to yourself. So pay what's due, honey. You deserve God's best for your life. So make sure that you are doing what God has purposed in you to do so that you can get the outcome and the manifestation that he already has for you. Y'all be blessed and be a blessing. And until next time, I'll see you later. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.